Welcome back to Let's Talk Forestry. In this episode, we are visiting a wood processing business. This business is both varied and progressive, from firewood to various bespoke timber projects. We are here today in the county of Meath to talk to John Sherlock. John's forestry journey started with his forest, firewood business, and then extended to an impressive workshop for various timber projects. Let's see what John has to say about his forestry journey to date.
We have a little business here doing other work. We needed to produce a product that was standard, that wouldn't go out of date, and that we could produce on site. And the fact that we had our own forest and we had our own raw material, we decided we'd do firewood at the start. And that launched us into a whole new area that we never ever thought we'd get into. We joined the Irish Bioenergy Organisation, and it gave us a real kickstart on really how to produce quality firewood. I joined the North East Forestry Group, a local forest owners group. I joined that in 2013. That has been such a fantastic vehicle for learning for me, and a lot of it peer-to-peer. So we started back in 2013. We initially produced a small amount of firewood. I think we arrived at the golden hour for firewood. It started to sell. There was a lot of stoves going in. My wife had done website design in the past, so she designed a website. So we really actually hit the ground running, and the business has evolved then beyond firewood into sawmilling and timber products. So these are basically pulp logs that come in from the forest. So we buy this, it's tenons from forest. This particular hardwood forest we bought these trees from, they've come from a continuous cover forest that's managed in a different manner than clear fell. So the forest these trees come from will never be clear felled. So when you have that, you have a variance of sizes in timbers. There's your typical firewood log. There's another one there. But then when you get to these, if you look at these, that's a fantastic piece of timber. That's probably 80 to 100 years. Well, it's at least a minimum of 80 years old, possibly 100. So it's a shame to convert that into firewood. And we see so much of it going on. So what we were looking at this coming in, and we said, can we make this into something that's usable? So we purchased a little small band mill. But I think it's actually fantastic to be standing here and surrounded by raw material that you have such a choice of. And if you think about it, forestry is the only farming enterprise that the product that's grown or produced on the farm with one single intervention, i.e. bring it from a round tree to a square plank, then can be sold onto the public. There's nothing else really. And the thing about it is, there's no immediacy in forestry, and there's really no immediacy in this. So you're not getting up in the morning saying, oh, it's raining, I have to get the hay baled, I have to get it in, I have to calve the cow. With forestry, time is not hugely important. Like we talk in farming in seasons, and we talk in forestry in years. I'll thin my forest this year. So a year is a long time. But when you look at the like of this that comes out of these forests, you know, we have a fantastic asset here. So we are then sawing this then, we're drying it, and then we're selling it on to local craft users. So they would be people who are producing breadboards. They could be producing little plaques. We have a local craft man in Navan. He calls himself the bearded man. He'll never be able to shave now, but he produces these plaques for companies who want to give something to visitors from overseas that's Irish. So if you think about it, you've Irish timber growing and Irish timber being sold. So even if there's a premium price in producing it, or cost should I say, in producing it, you can charge extra because people will pay for the fact that it's Irish. Now, in the short term, we're not going to have a huge volume of hardwoods. These will be the exception. But in time, as the markets and as the trees grow bigger, we're going to have a market. And this is why I think small-scale sawmilling by forest owners, I think it's fantastic, so it is. This is your typical firewood pulp stack. So this is a softwood. This is the backbone of the Irish forestry industry, really. These are the thinnings that come out of forestry operations. So all this timber is not suitable for saw log, so therefore it goes for firewood or for wood chip. So we then buy this pulpwood from private foresters who decide to do their own thinning, from harvesting companies who would do the harvesting for them, or we sometimes buy from state agencies or large forest enterprises. So we could buy it at the side of the road, stacked as similar to this but a lower height, and then we'd pay a haulier to draw it in, or sometimes we buy it delivered. It depends on what the situation is. So the beauty about the pulpwood is that it tends to be sold to local firewood producers, so therefore there's a shorter time on the road. So sawmills are here and there around Ireland, so a lorry will come for a load of saw log to go to the sawmill, but that won't fill in his day, so he'll bring a load of pulp to the like of me. There's loads of people producing firewood, so they're dotted round, and they're an intrinsic part of forestry because we are basically taking the waste. It either goes for chipboard, for wood chip, or firewood. That timber now won't be touched till next summer. So here we are this summer. So we buy it, we stack it. We obviously stack it up high up off the ground. We stick it in a windy area, sunny area. We leave it sitting. So then after 9 months, next summer, we'll chop it up and split it. Then we'll either put it into our drums and then we place it into our polytunnels to get it down to the low moisture content. Some of it we don't, some of it that's really, really dry, we bag directly into bags, and that goes for small bags for filling stations. We tend to try and thin our forest during the summer, so the timber then has time to dry out for that winter, and then we use it. So we've had 2 thinnings, and both times we've used the timber. And it actually has worked out very well because we don't have transport costs. We can control when we harvest, when we need the timber. We're actually managing our forest now under continuous cover. So that in itself is sort of change the dynamics of what comes out of the forest, because now we're having larger trees coming out that aren't a great shape to allow room for the younger trees to come on. Out of that there may come, possibly will come, small saw log and pallet wood, which in its own way will increase the return from that forest in the short term and spreading the income in the long term. I actually prefer the sawmilling to it all. It's such a change. You have a log lying on a bench and suddenly you put the mill through it, you turn it around and suddenly you have this thing. You've either a beam, you have a plank, you have a paling post. But when the winter comes in and the snow and the frost and the dark nights and the rain, I actually like coming in here into the workshop to make things, because you light the stove, you turn on the radio and you do get lost. And you can see here the sense of space you have. You could be here till 9 or half 9 at night working away, because everything leads to another. So you get involved in it, you start making a component and you get a joint done, and then you see, well, I'll do this, and next thing you don't want to stop. So as I say, I do love the sawmilling, and it's probably one of the last parts of timber that I got involved in, having been a wood turner, joiner and all that, and end up sawmilling. It's absolutely fantastic, so it is. When we were sawing our timber, then we discovered we had loads of timber there cut and planked and semi-dry, but semi-dry is okay, i.e. air dried, which will bring the moisture down to 17%. That's okay for outside. In modern houses, you have to have the moisture down to around about 8 to 10%, or else you end up with cracks and things like this, which nobody wants in their furniture. So we bought a small kiln kit. A lot of people make kilns out of insulated panels and SIP panels, so we decided, since we had all the raw material here, wouldn't it be lovely to make it out of the Douglas fir that we had here? And it sort of was a little showcase too for Douglas fir. So we insulated it with 100mm insulation. So We put in some beech that we knew had been there a while, and we put it in as a trial run. And the one good thing is, with that particular kiln, there's an app. So you put in the size of your kiln, the type of timber, the thickness, the volume, all of that. Then it gives you the temperature and the time to run the kiln closed at, when to run it open. We also purchase at the time quality grade moisture meters. They're slightly drilled into the plank, plot them in. So they give you a very good reading. So we have them wired out of the kiln along with a temperature gauge. So you can see the temperature and the moisture content real time. So what we do is we make a note of that, and you can actually see the moisture content creeping down. So you know that the moisture meter is working, first of all, because it's only going very slowly. And you sort of get a feel for it after a while. So we dried some timber earlier in the year, and there was a very high humidity. It took a long time to get down. So there's loads to learn. Somebody can come to us and say, well, I'm looking for a beam or a piece of timber. Well, we can actually say, well, right, if it's a structural softwood, we can cut it and you can have it, and we can move on that. Then what we do is, if you see then, when you're, when we're sawing, to get it from the round to the square, there's a certain amount of wastage. So what we tend to do is run out these 25mm planks, that's inch in old terms, and keep them. So we accumulate them, they dry quite well, and then we run them through our machine there, our fork cutter, and we can run tongue and groove timber. So that's a really high value product, really, from something that it's not waste, but it could be waste if you didn't mind it. So that's one of the things we do, and that's more on the structural softwood. When we have the hardwood now, we tend to sell the hardwood to customers who come in to make specific projects. They would be craft timber users. They wouldn't be your factory type individuals. There'd be people who want to make something specific to them that they can see where the timber came from. It being Irish timber is very important, and the character and the grain of the timber, they just don't walk in. It's not like a hardware store. We spend a bit of time going around saying, what do you want? What are you using it for? What sizes would you like? So the difference is, the nuances in the timber is different, but the fact I think that we sawmill both timbers in monetary terms is quite good, because when you saw the hardwood, you invest in the timber, the time, and you stack it. So if you can imagine a 2-inch plank, which is 50mm, is about that, in hardwood, that's 2 years air drying before you put it into the kiln. Now you can put it into a modern industrial kiln, but we don't have that. So if you have invested that time and you're waiting for 2 years for your timber to dry, well, if you're sawmilling structural softwoods or timber that can be sold, in a semi-dry state for outside, well, then that improves your cash flow and you're getting utilization from your machines. So we tend to do a little bit of both, believe it or not. I'm at a stage in my life that I can actually sort of half choose what I make. So we tend to do products here that other people don't do or wouldn't have an interest. So I'll give you an example. We made a copy of the Japanese bridge for a lady. That was a very interesting one, because we actually milled the timber. It was made of larch, so she had the larch on site. So the trees were knocked, we brought them over, milled them here, dried them, and made the Japanese bridge. And that was a really interesting one. Bridges tend to be like that. They're all curves, and curves and curves and curves. So that was interesting, because I hadn't done it before. We make these boards, so you can imagine these are just samples, they're not this short. So for somebody that's doing a timber building, these are a tongue and groove board. They don't tighten until the weight goes on. So if you look at that, you say, isn't that a lovely bit of timber? It is. That actually was pulpwood that came into our yard, and we milled that on the band mill and produced them. Now, There's an individual locally who built himself a little off-grid house using them boards, and he went the whole way up, and it's absolutely stunning. There's loads of things we can do. It's just the starting of them. And being honest, YouTube is great, because no matter what you think you're going to make, there's somebody has made it before you. Do you know? So that's the things we tend to do. We actually made another bridge for our own forest there recently, and we made it from Irish larch and Douglas fir as well. During COVID, a guy that's working for me saw the cutters, and he said, John, he says, I wouldn't mind making a sauna. And I said, that's a great idea. You make the sauna and I can learn from all our mistakes. So we made the sauna, and again, it was made out of pulpwood because it was a prototype, and we didn't want to waste good timber. So then when he made it, and we looked and learned by his mistakes, hopefully, we decided we'd make another one. And then a friend of mine says, well, you know what, I'd like to make one. So I said, well, do you know what, we'll run it out now as two. So then we ran it out and we made them. And very interesting, another circular product. And anything to do with circles is always challenging, you know, as regards making things to the right dimensions. I'd love to do more of producing components for people to do the work themselves, because I really think this day and age we need to get back working our hands. We need to get back producing things. And if you look at a piece of timber, it's soft, it's warm. You put your hand on that, you'll start to feel warm. Here's a piece of steel, you put your hand on and you start to feel cold. You start cutting that, the sparks flying, you have to protect your eyes. When you start working on timber, it's a lovely, you can dust yourself off and you could go out for lunch. And if somebody smells timber off you, they'll say, what were you making? And the beauty of timber is you can make anything from it.
That's all for this year on Let's Talk Forestry. A quick note on the channel creators, who we are and what we do. Ryan Conway is the co-producer of these videos and the main creative talent in the visual aspects. Ryan is a self-employed filmmaker and drone pilot from County West Meath. For those who don't know me, my name is Linda Coughlin, and I am a self-employed registered forester from County Dublin. My role in making these videos was mainly from a content and administration point of view. Finally, thank you to all our viewers and subscribers. The positive feedback from you is what made these videos so enjoyable to make. We need your support to continue making forestry related videos. So please share, subscribe and like our channel. Hope to bring you more videos in 2025 with your continued support. Bye for now.